Good morning, everybody. Old Headbanger here from the Armory at River Road in Poplarville. Today we're going to have a little discussion about silencers. What is it? How does it work? Where did it start? Why do we have them? Things like that. Just a brief overview of it. These are the kind of things that we hear questions about constantly whenever people come in and want to buy a suppressor for the first time, especially. So we'll go through a few things here about the history of them, where they came from. We'll talk about the designs, how they're made, the materials they're made out of, the different calibers, sizes of them that you can get, and then get into a little bit of the NFA part of it, the National Firearms Act piece. So first thing today is talking about where did they come from and what are they. You think about a silencer, you're thinking about James Bond and Hollywood quiet there and everything. So silencers, as the NFA calls them, are really don't make anything silent. They are as the industry calls it, a suppressor. It drops the decibel level of the report of the firearm whenever it's fired at the muzzle. They do nothing to affect the speed of the bullet. They do nothing to change the trajectory of it on a significant way. There are a couple of times where you would have to re-zero it, but overall, they take, as we say, the boom off the end of the stick. So with that, we're trying to reduce the decibels anywhere from 20 to 35 decibels, which brings them down to the hearing safe level. In 1902, Hiram Maxim, who was the son of the inventor of the Maxim machine gun, developed the first commercially used or suppressor, silencer, and then patented his design in 1909. With that, they were used in most cases not by the mob or the hitmen or anything of that era. They were mostly used by people who were taking game and trying to take more than one animal, so that when they fired, it didn't scare the others, didn't scare and make noise in the forest or the woods if it was close to people. So they were designed to reduce the report for hunting. Now they were, of course, used in nefarious ways by many of the mobsters of that era. That's where they kind of get their bad reputation from. And then, of course, Hollywood just pushed that to the hilt there and made you think that the only people that needed or had suppressors were bad folks doing bad things. So they do have a history in that, in hearing protection, as well as quiet for hunting and being quiet around other people. But the design from that time had really not changed much throughout the years. Most of the traditional baffles are made of a tube. This tube has little baffles that are slid down inside of it that have a hole in them, and each one of them reduces the pressure, the heat, and the volume of gas that is moving out of the muzzle. Those gases can come out at supersonic speed. So that speed breaks the gas actually breaks the sound barrier, as well as the bullet breaking the sound barrier. So what we're doing is containing those gases within that tube. We're quieting that sound, the report, by slowing it down before it exits the actual end of the suppressor itself. The other thing that it does is that it turns some of that energy that's being released from that explosion at the end of the barrel into heat energy. It's absorbed into the metal. That metal then cools down. So you've changed it from a very fast and high energy environment to a lower energy environment. It's not creating or destroying energy, as the physics tell us it can't. It's just changing it to a different state. So that process still happens today. We've gone away from a lot of the traditional stacked baffle designs being made out of lightweight materials to keep it light on the firearm, but kind of looking at adding, some other pathways that gas can take instead of just hitting a baffle. The first change was that they were called clipped baffles there, in which you see a lot of those today still in these traditional designs, to where a portion of the gas does get to exit around the bullet, so you don't end up with a lot of overpressure inside the weapon itself. But today, with modern technology and modern CNC machining, that some of the gases can be directed even going backwards inside the silencer. The neatest thing that's happened lately is the addition of using 3D printing of metals. Now this has grown exponentially over the past several years. There are rocket ships, rocket motors, and everything else being built just down here at our local Stennis Space Center out of 3D printing of titanium, Inconel, stainless steel, you name it there, to where instead of machining a block of metal or a bar of metal and reducing it down, reductive manufacturing, that we're now additive manufacturing, to where just the metal that you need is actually used to build this. Some of our higher performing suppressors right now are 3D printed titanium. They give you the strength, they're very lightweight, and there's virtually no waste in the machining process. So the price of them, although most of the titaniums are a little bit more, they're still not as much as they would be as if you were trying to machine that titanium. The other thing that the 3D printing gives you is the ability then to actually use the gases to cool down other gases. There are times to where this gas can actually hit a surface, be turned around and sent back to the back of the suppressor, and other gases in there mixed with it that also cool down before they encounter another surface. So that in itself has really changed the game when it comes to suppressors, their efficiency whenever you're using it, especially on higher volume fire or higher velocity and high volume cartridges, 300 Win mags, using it on a fully auto-rated weapon system there. The next thing that really changed the game is what's called a flow-through design. And if we could see here with the end of this suppressor, this silencer just has a single hole in it. What this does is captures the oxygen that's inside of this suppressor now and pushes it towards the end of the suppressor. Due to compression and the heat that's already there from the firing of the projectile, will ignite the oxygen, and it will have a louder sound. So the first shot you take out of a suppressor, every time you break it out and go to use it, is going to be a little bit louder than the second, third, and fourth shot because of that first round pop that we hear. After that, it quiets down because there's no other fresh oxygen in there to ignite. With some of the newer designs, and one of the big industry changes lately has been that we have multiple holes inside on the end of the suppressor. Some of them come out the front, others come out the tops and sides of it there. But what this does is some of that gas that's trapped in the outside of the core has been turned around at a lower pressure, is then exhausted around there. And it allows the projectile to fire out of the suppressor and not overpressure the can. It negates the first round pop of it. And this has really changed how suppressors are being built now. This is one of the first ones, the Huxworks flow-through cans. They really pioneered a lot of this stuff. The AR system, whether it be an AR-15 or AR-10, is a gas gun. That gas gun has to take the gases from the barrel back down a little tube into the receiver. Whenever it enters the receiver, it's entering it at a higher pressure than it would firing it traditionally. Having the flow through reduces that effect. It reduces and changes that you need to maybe put adjustable gas blocks, change springs and weights in your buffer to get the firearm to run better, more efficiently, and safer. Plus, it keeps all that gas from just spitting back in your face continuously. These are some requests that were put in by SOCOM trying to come up with a way to stop this gas from just constantly pounding the operators in their face. With the U.S. military transitioning to a weapon system that now is a suppressed weapon system, these are the kind of things that needed to be answered, and companies like Hux and X2 Dev Group, they came through with some really great suppressors that not only quieten down the report, but also reduce that back pressure in the weapon system. We've seen a lot of other things change in the industry as well, not just the design and the materials there, but what type of firearms you can use it on. You know, one of the things we say is the most fun you can have with your britches on is a little 22 rimfire with a rimfire can on it with some subsonic ammunition. More than likely, you probably have a air rifle that's louder than this, shooting some subsonics out of a suppressed 22. I mean, it is just literally, that is the Hollywood quiet that you look for. But that's not the only thing you can run it on. Of course, the 5.56, 223 weapons of the AR-15 platform, you're up to your 30 caliber rounds, whether it be a 300 Ultra Mag or 300 Blackout. Those 30 caliber cans have really become one of the most popular ones that we sell and that people come looking for. Many of the 30 caliber cans are adaptable to where you can run that on your 5.56 and it be just as efficient and just as quiet on that can. So now you have a true multi-caliber suppressor. Huge range of cartridges you could run that on. You know, we get the question a lot about guys that have 270s, 243s, 6.5 Creedmoor, all of these different ones. As long as it's the projectile itself is smaller than the holes and the bore of the suppressor, it will fit through there and you can run it on it. Looking at some of the ratings of the pressures and things like that, but overall they are a true multi-caliber can. And the next step up from that, most of the manufacturers build what's called a 36 caliber can. It's like .358. Those are great on your 350 Legend, your 35 Whelen, which is a monster in itself, or 9mm. That .358 9mm is the same bore diameter. And so several cans are being made now out of the titanium, making them light enough to where you can run them as a pistol suppressor on a tilt barrel pistol with a booster system, and take it off, put you a thread adapter on it, put it on your 35 Whelen and shoot it. So you've got a huge variety there of what you can fire through it. Up from that, we go to the 46 caliber cans there. The 46 is really made for the big boys. We're talking about the 45-70, the 44 Magnums, the 458 SOCOM, all of those that are there to be able to have that larger projectile pass through it. Many of them can be adapted down. There are some companies that will sell you end caps to size it down to a 5.56 or whatever, but the best performance you get out of a suppressor is one that is sized as close to the diameter of the projectile that you can get. You will always get the best performance out of that. We've even got up to, Barrett makes a 50 caliber, 50 BMG suppressor for their Barrett 50 caliber rifles. And now, even this is a 12 gauge suppressor from Yankee Hill Machine. It's called the Victra 12. This is made to put an adapter on the end of your shotgun where your choke tube goes, and you adapt it into it. It has chokes that you can put in it to change whatever choke that you prefer to use. This one can be broken down into 3 different segments to make it shorter, kind of tune it to the load that you're firing, length of barrel that you're running on. These are remarkably light for their size. They don't have to handle the huge pressures that we see in our rifle cartridges. But there's also a Victor 20. Those are due into us anytime now. So for your 20 gauge shooters out there, we'll have a suppressor for that. So if you're shooting a lot of high volume in the dove field, shooting skeet, trap, sporting clays, something like that, to where it's constantly bam, 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 this can make life a lot better. Not only for you, but again, for everybody else around you. So there's a large variety of suppressors that you can fit to the purpose that you need. We've yet to find the holy grail of one suppressor that does great on everything. You always give something up whenever you want to get something. So it's a trade-off, whether it be weight, whether it be length, whether it be, you know, the different number of projectiles you want to go through it. You may end up with, and we always say it's quite addictive once you get your first suppressor, getting multiple suppressors. Moving it from weapon to weapon there. You know, if you're using a QD mounting system, you know, the QD mounting systems are great for you to be able to put a muzzle device on each firearm you own and then just quickly connect the suppressor onto it. These upwards of 200 to 250 bucks in some manufacturers. So you would have to buy that many of the, however many you need for all your different firearms. Direct thread, still one of the most popular. As long as your barrel is threaded, you can take it off of one suppressor, off of one weapon with a direct thread, screw it onto another one. Most shooters are not tactical folks running and gunning, having to put suppressors on, take them off quickly. So you have the time. Unscrew, screw this on there, good and hand tight, you're good to go. It is cheaper doing it this way than it is using QD systems. But we do sell multiple different types of QD systems. We're glad to help you set it up and keep you running there if that's the direction you need to go with it. Why is it such a big deal about suppressors? Why are we, even talking about that trying to educate everyone on it? People have been led to believe that they are not legal, that they can't be used for hunting, that they are only for people who are out there doing nefarious things in the dark of night behind closed doors or whatever. They've been legal since 1934. Actually, they were legal before that, but in 1934, we had what's called the National Firearms Act that was passed. This was passed in response to a lot of the mob violence that was taking on during that time. Things like machine guns, the Thompson submachine gun being the main target of the NFA. That's why it was even started. The St. Valentine's Day massacre was a big deal, got the public's attention, and of course a lot of politicians got involved and had to go harumph for rump and do something about it. Well, they passed the National Firearms Act, which included machine guns, short-barreled rifles. At that time, the length was 18 inches. Short-barreled shotguns, again, 18.5 inch, I believe was the number on that. And then things called AOWs. AOWs are nothing more than other devices that can launch a projectile using gunpowder. It could be pen guns. It could have been what they called wallet guns that looked like a wallet. You just simply stick your finger in it and use it. Things that were hidden but didn't qualify as a pistol, maybe didn't qualify as a rifle or a shotgun. So that's where the AOW comes from. The suppressor was added to it, not because it was found to be that all of your mob people were using it, but in order to get the National Firearms Act passed, they didn't have enough votes. So to make the sausage, they went to a bunch of the congressmen and senators and said, hey, look, you've got these people poaching on your properties. If they have silencers, they're going to be out there killing more of your animals without your knowledge of it. And they convinced enough congressmen to be able to vote for the National Firearms Act when they added suppressors and silencers into it. So they're not dangerous. They're actually good for you because they do protect your hearing. They have a lot of more positive qualities than negative qualities. But just from that genesis there, they were added to help pass the National Firearms Act. So we move forward a little bit, the 1968 Gun Control Act shortened the barrels down to 16 inches on rifles, required serial numbers and licensing and things like that. But the biggest change came especially with machine guns in 1986, whenever the Firearms Owners Protection Act, the FOPA, was passed there, which then limited the sale or transfer of newly manufactured machine guns to those that were already in public hands or private hands at that point. No new ones could be made and transferred to individuals. So we've had that creep that we hear about and we talk about in the firearms community. You can see that taking place over time with these different acts that are passed, and truly they are infringing upon a right. The Second Amendment is a right under the Constitution, and this is the only one that has this level of infringement that's placed upon it there. So that's a discussion for another day, but we just wanted to give you a rundown of what a suppressor is. These are some common questions we get asked in the store all the time. So we just put it out there. If you have any questions about it there, leave us a comment. We'd like to hear from you there. Give us your feedback on it there. Maybe what your experience has been with suppressors, and let's learn together with this. Let's keep growing this community of people who are in the suppressor world, as we say it. We always like to say around here to stay ready, but we also like to say shoot quiet. You'll see our hashtag all the time there with that. Hashtag stay ready, hashtag shoot quiet. But any questions, be sure you subscribe, ring that little bell down there in the lower corner, follow us there. And again, we'd like to hear from you. Stay ready.